there is something that you need to know about Kenya. On top of it producing the best music, on top of it having some of the best people that I've ever met, this country also have some of the most robust and innovative companies in the world. People who had no access to the financial system were brought in by the mobile revolution, which started in this great East African country. This is an amazing country. East Africa's largest economy, the cradle of mankind when you're talking about history, the cradle of the mobile revolution, the Silicon Valley of Africa, whatever you decide to call this country, I think there's one thing that's perfectly clear here. If you are an investor who is serious about the growth of the African story, then you need to be positioned in Kenya, because this is where some of the most interesting stories in terms of returns are going to originate out of. Of course, investors who have gone into this market in the past months and years have had some sweet numbers to come out of here. Sweet numbers that I'm going to look at it right here. The Nairobi Securities Exchange All Share Index, if you're looking at the numbers from the past 3 months until today, when I'm recording this video, Monday, May 31, 2021, in the past 3 months alone, the market has gone up 2.77%. Year to date, from 1 January to May 31, 2021, the market has gone up 11.74%. This is eye-popping. Listen to that. 11.74%. Okay. You think this is high? Okay, let's look at the past year alone. In the past year alone, from May 31, 2020 to today, May 31, 2021, this market has gone up 23.95%. You just said that right. 23.95%. Imagine you had put your money a year ago in Kenya. This is how much it would have gone up by. But of course, if the best time to invest in Kenya was a year from now, when you could have earned 23.95% on your money, then the second best time to invest is now. You need to go to this next step in this video and figure out how you can actually start investing on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. And what I'm going to tell you today about the Nairobi Securities Exchange is my journey of how I started to get there. And of course, we'll get to the first point, which is, how do you start? You start by reading and researching about the market. You want to understand the market. You don't want to be someone who is just making knee-jerk reactions by saying that, no, Maro talked about this, he mentioned the numbers and I really love that 23.95%, so I just want to pour my money there and see what happens. No. You want to invest and understand the market. You want to understand the economy. You want to understand the sectors and the individual companies that are within these sectors. And then, of course, when you make that decision, you will be able to see that the decisions will be more rationalized and you can justify why you're putting your money in a certain company on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. So now, after you have an understanding of this market and after you have an understanding of the companies that are on this market, then you actually want to go to the Nairobi Securities Exchange website and to find the list of brokers. Of course, Kenya is a moderately big economy on the African continent, and of course, as East Africa's biggest economy, there will be more brokers operating in this economy. There are 22 by my count, but if you're someone who is really interested and if you're someone who is really excited about this market, then you could look at a case where you actually email the 22 of them, which is what I did. And then after you write them an email stating your name, where you live, that you want to invest on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, and then also ask them, what are the minimum amounts to invest and whether, they require you to open a local bank account or not. After you email your brokers, it is time for you to just sit down and wait for the responses and see who comes up with a response for you. After the responses come in, there is a criteria that I usually use to narrow down the brokers to see which broker will I finally get to. The 22 like this, you might want to start with what I call the website test, because a lot of 22 is a big number for you to make this decision. So you might just want to go to their websites, look at which websites are good and which websites have more information that you think is helpful for investors, and narrow down based on that. After you narrow down based on their websites, then you actually want to go and look at the research they offer. You want to email them and say, look, I want to understand how you guys have been writing your research in the past, because research is very important. If you're someone who actually doesn't live in Kenya and doesn't understand these companies that are operating, then You ask them to give you the research they have produced in the past. You read this research, briefly to see, is it detailed enough? Would it give you as much information as you would need for you to actually start investing in this economy? And then when you look at the research, you can use it to narrow down the list. You also ask them if they have broker-controlled accounts, if that's something that you're considering. The reason is here because if you're someone who is just interested in Kenya in general, or in this market in particular, but you haven't gotten to a point where you think you have enough information to decide which counters to buy, then definitely you want to start by saying, look, I want the broker to make the decision for me. I'll send them the money, and I really just want them to make the decision of what to buy. Then definitely, if that's the route that you're taking, then you want to ask them if they have broker-controlled accounts or not. And then after that step, you get to the requirements. What is it that they are likely to require from you? And these requirements are based on what my broker required from me. For my broker, I'm going to leave their information in the comments below if you just want to contact them directly. The requirements that they have are actually pretty much simple. They want you to have your passport picture. They want you to have your account opening form, which they'll send to you. You write in it and sign and everything, and then scan it back to them. And they want a notarized valid ID. These guys want a recent valid ID. Like, I sent them something that was notarized in 2016, and they said, no, that's not valid, which is weird because the document is still valid. Like, my passport doesn't expire until, in the next coming years, but they still said they wanted it recent. So, that's the only thing that can be sort of like a pain. But if you really want the broker, then you have to dance to their tune. And so I had to get it recently notarized and then send it out to them. So this is something that you want to look out for to make sure that your ID is actually recently notarized and not like was notarized in 2010 or something like that. How do you fund your account? For you to be able to fund your account, Kenya is very much, a big, robust economy. But then, of course, the only way, if you're someone who doesn't live in Kenya, for you to fund your account will be to do it via international wire transfers. You'll be transferring your money from wherever you live using your bank. You give them an instruction, whether on mobile money or whether you have to walk into a branch. You give them an instruction and the money is sent to Kenya. For dividends and for when you sell your shares on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, these can actually be sent to an international bank account, which is actually something that's good because in some countries you are required to open a local bank account where your dividends get to be put in. But then these actually get to be sent to an international bank account anywhere in the world, which is something that is sweet news for your ears if you're someone who doesn't want to go through the hassle of opening local bank accounts just to use for dividends. Now, coming to the communication here should be relatively simple for you if you speak English. The people in Kenya speak English, and so this is something that should be good for you. Emailing them is probably the most efficient way to talk to these guys on the stockbroking side because, they'll email you back quite constantly. At least I'm talking from the experiences that I've had. And then sometimes you can also make calls if you think something that is urgent and needs to be solved, or if you think an explanation needs to be done, or you have deep questions or something like that. You can make some calls, and these calls can be in English, and you can easily understand each other. So definitely, this is something that I would want you guys to consider. If you are someone who is looking at good African stock markets that are robust, well-regulated, and have been performing well in the past, then definitely Kenya is something for you to watch, and Kenya is something for you to consider. If you're someone who is already investing in Kenya, as I suspect some of you are, then do let me know in your comments below your story of when you started investing and which ones you think are the most resilient companies on this stock exchange that you're looking at that are in your portfolio, or the ones that you're looking to add into your portfolio as you get more savings for you to add into your portfolio. But definitely, guys, we want to keep on spreading this African story, spreading this investment story so that other people who are our age can be able to realize that the best way for us to leave enough capital for our descendants to grow and for them to sustain themselves is to do things that are sustainable. And we are looking at buying here pieces of businesses that are operating on the African continent. There can be no better decision than that. Investing your money in something that will allow you to use it in the future and something that will give you dividends along the way, but while preserving your capital, is something that you really want to consider. So do let me know when you think you want to start your investment journey on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And of course, in my case, I've told you my story, but your story could probably be more interesting, so do share it in the comments below. And until next time, see you. My name is Maro.